All right, this is the story of Rukia Kuchki, as told by Darius the Green Angel. So Rukia was raised in, or she was spirit, a girl, and she lived in Hanging Dog. Hanging Dog is a district outside of the Soul Society where like vagrants live, people who are poor, nobles of like the Soul Society don't live out there, right? Rukia had a sister named Isane. See, Isane then she was like married into the Kuchi clan, right? But Rukia, it was like the younger sister, and she like stayed in Hanging Dog. And there in Hanging Dog, she met a boy named Renji, and she got feelings for him and other things. And they were like together. They were like, since she had a lot of spirit energy, Reiatsu, and Renji did too, but not like Rukia. Rukia was like a little better at controlling her Reishi and other things, her Reiatsu and shit, right? So they were like training and other things, and they were like, one day we'll become Soul Reapers. So the day came. All their other friends had died because they got sick and other shit. But they were like, let's go become Soul Reapers real quick. They go into the Soul Reaper Academy, and they're with Izuru, Kira, Momo, Hinamori, and those four are like a group. They came in at the same time and shit, right? They listed into the 13 Court Guards Halls together and shit, right? But Rukia caught the eye of Byakuya Kuchi. As I said before, Isane, Rukia's older sister, was like taken by Byakuya because she was beautiful and other things. She had like the same type of look as Rukia. So when Byakuya saw Rukia, he was like, "Oh shit, that's like Isane's younger sister. I want to adopt her into the Kuchiki clan. That's what I'm gonna do, and I have the authority to do that." He went to the like people who were in charge of the um, Soul Reaper academy and other things, and they were like, "Yes, Rukia is yours. She can," and he was like, "She'll be a squad member of a certain squad and other things. She's now a part of the Kuchiki house." The Kuchiki clan is a noble clan. They have high standing in the Soul Society and other shit. So that's why she got taken in. When she got taken in, she was like, "Yeah." That happened. After that happened, Rukia then went into the Kuchi clan, and she became a part of Squad 13 under Uketake Jushiro Uketake. Squad 13, and Byakuya was her brother. He was the captain of Squad 6. However, Rukia then went into went into the world of the living, and that's where the story of Bleach begins. Rukia goes there, and she senses a hollow. She's like, "Okay, I have to go there." She gets there to Ichigo's house, and she's like, "Okay, this guy can see me. Most people can't see her." Ichigo is a guy who has certain abilities. It's his heredity. His mother and father had abilities, so he could see stuff, right? And he was able to see Rukia, and Rukia was like, "Damn, this human can see me. Let me like bind him real quick so he can't like fuck with me as I'm trying to dispose of hollows." So she tries to dispose of hollows. However, she didn't know how powerful this hollow was. It was a bit out of her, or she was just caught off guard, really. Um, and she got injured. And she was like, "Damn, I got injured trying to help you out, but you're like a fool who tries to like save this family when you can't do it." She says, What's your name?" And he's like, "My name's Ichigo Kurosaki." She said, "My name's Rukia Kuchiki. Now take this power and become a Soul Reaper." And then she handed her powers over to Ichigo. Now, she didn't try to hand all of her power over to Ichigo, but that's basically what happened. And she had to like try to regain her powers back. And then for the next couple months, she was teaching Ruki or Ichigo how to be a Soul Reaper, how to handle hollows, since she couldn't do it herself. She went to Urahara. Um, Kisuke Urahara like gave her soul candy and other things. She was able to basically remove Ichigo from his body and have Kon inhabit Ichigo's body, and she was, helping him out with shit. Um, eventually she saw like um, Chad and Orihime gain powers because of the way that these hollows were coming after Ichigo and other things. They sensed a Soul Reaper, but not just Soul Reaper. They sensed the Soul Reaper that was inexperienced and other shit. So they felt as if they could, take advantage of the situation. And not just that, then Uryu, like, one day he sent hollows out in order to challenge Ichigo. He's like, basically, Quincy's are better than Soul Reapers. And he's like, all right, here. Now you get to prove that you're better than me if you can. And fucking Ichigo went out of his way to, do that. Rukia was just like this whole time she had barely any like spirit energy. Ryatsu, she was able to use Shakaho Red Cannon. That's all she was able to use. That's all I remember her using in like the beginning to like keep shit at bay. And she could only do that to like not how she used to. But then there was a Soul Reaper like that came around. Like Ichigo was fighting against Grand Fisher, the Soul Reaper that fucked with his that killed his mother, and he was like, the Solar Soul Reaper was like, they're gonna come after you because you gave your power away to a human being. And she was like, I understand. Eventually, then she just left a note for Ichigo, and she went to Byakuya and Renji as they were sent to take her back to Soul Society so she could be judged by Central 46 and the rest of Soul Reapers, and then she get her execution date. And when that was going on, Ichigo was like, well, I need Rukia still. I'm not like the best Soul Reaper, and she also saved my life. That's my friend. I'm gonna go save her and shit. Rukia was like, stay away. These Soul Reapers are stronger than you. You don't quite understand what you're getting into. And he was like, no, I have to save you. He was able to like cut Renji's like glasses or whatever, and then Byakuya, basically, made easy work of him. And he took Rukia to Soul Society. In Soul Society, she was bound. She was kept prisoner in a tower. But during that time, Hanataro from the 4th Division was taking care of her until her execution date. He was like, I don't think you should die or anything like that. It's, a shame that you gotta like get executed and other things. She's like, I did something I wasn't supposed to. I guess I have to die. But Hinataro then later on says that Ichigo's here to save you. She was like, oh no, Ichigo's coming and he might die. Because she knew how powerful her brother was. And not just him, but like the other captains too. And they labeled him a Ryoka. So that means he's a person who's infiltrating the Soul Society and will be eliminated and shit. That's what that means. So that happened, right? And then Rukia was there on the bridge. She was being transferred to another prison before her execution date. And then Ichigo shows up and she's like, oh shit, Ichigo, you're stronger than you were before. You may be able to get away. But that wasn't the case. Ichigo needed a little more power to take on captains and shit. She was then, put in another cell, and then the next, couple of days, they actually moved her execution date up because of Aizen and shit, right? And she was there on the execution platform. Yamamoto was like, this is your last time seeing, the light of day. You'll be dead soon. You'll burn to death, essentially. And Hogyoku Hiro, Soyoku Hiro, and she was there. But then Ichigo showed up. He destroyed the platform, and Rukia was saved. He threw Rukia down to Renji. Renji was like, "Here, I'm here to save you too," and he grabbed Rukia and he left. Byakuya and Ichigo were fighting against one another. Rukia and Renji were like, getting out of there, getting out of the way. Then the fight ended between Ichigo and Byakuya. However, there was another guy, Aizen. Aizen played games. He killed everybody in Century 46. He was like, playing people Kyoka Suigetsu. And he stole Hogeku from Rukia. It was inside Rukia. So he stole Hogeku. And he got away. He escaped to Wakamundo. And then Rukia was in Soul Society. Ichigo was like, okay, I guess I'll go back to living my life and other things. And she was like, yeah, you know, you're a substitute Soul Reaper. I'm here. They ain't gonna kill me now because it's all thanks to you. You're my friend. And you always be my friend and shit. And they're like, yeah. And then they left. But then, um, the Arankars appeared in the world of living. And they were like, Aizen's playing games. He went to Wake Mundo and created these um, basically hollows who have soul reaper powers called Arankars, Espadas. The most powerful ones are called Espadas. And he did that. And upon doing that, Ichigo had to, get stronger because he, got his ass whooped by Yami and them. And it was because he didn't have control of his own inner hollow. His inner hollow would take over, and he didn't want that to happen. So after that, right, um, he. Are you having dinner with us? It's for customers. They're gonna buy pizza. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So that happened, right? And Ichigo was like, okay, I'll do that, right? And then this and that. I'll learn from Shinji how to control my hollow powers. Do that. But before he did that, Rukia came back. Rukia came back to the world of the living. But when she came back, she came back. What I'm saying is, she had her soul reaper powers intact, and not just her soul reaper powers. She showcased um, Sodina Shirayuki. I think that's what her Shikai is called, right? And she did that, right? She was able to showcase her abilities, and when she did that, Ichigo was like, "Damn, you know, I had to get saved by you when I know I could like handle that shit myself." He was like, "Nah, this is crazy. I have to like, you know, learn how to control my inner demon and shit." But eventually, I learned how to do that, right? And he did that, right? Oh, he kept doing that shit, or he kept out training. As Rukia was, she was sorry for again. She was happy she got her abilities back. But then, Rukia had to, go to Wake Mundo. See, Urahime had been taken by Ukiura Shifa, and then they went to Wake Mundo. Then Rukia was like, okay, I'll help you save, Urahime. I know her. She doesn't deserve that. She's just some human girl, because she's nice and other things. And she's a friend and other stuff. So she went there to Wake Mundo too. And when they got there, they met Donachaka and some other Hollows who were, you know, they were just doing what the Hollows do, you know, being Hollows and Wakamundu, not so aggressive towards, eating humans too much as these were, Gillion, I believe, weaker Hollows. And they were helping Ichigo and them out. So that happened, right? And then Rukia, eventually she come up upon um, Iron Narrow. And see, he's a Espada number 9. And she comes upon a Espada number 9. And she has a hard time with him. Because this is why. Espada number 9 ate the hollow that killed her former lieutenant, Lieutenant Sheba, Kayan Sheba. She loved Kayan Sheba. You know, she loved him. She wanted to experience Kayan Sheba. But Aniro was like using his face to like fuck with her, mind. She was like, "Are you still alive, Kayan? Are you, trying to fight against this hollow taking control of you?" And he was like, "Not quite. I actually devoured the hollow that killed Kayan Sheba." And she was fighting against Aniro. And she had a hard time because of that. But then when, he took his real form, she was able to defeat him. She was actually able to defeat Hollow number 9, or Espada number 9. Um, but she like almost lost her life. But then her body was like, on the ground. Um, Another Espada appeared called Espada number 7. That is, Zamari. He uses a called a Moor. This move allows him to control body parts and shit. So Byakuya showed up to protect his sister. However, she was being moved around by Samari. Her lifeless body was being moved around. He was like a Moor, and she started moving around trying to cut Byakuya. Byakuya had to bind her with Rika Chakoro and keep her in place. It was a Hado spell that he used to put her there and like calm her the fuck down. Um, then after that happened, she was saved because Byakuya had destroyed spot number 7. She was still in Wakamundo fighting against Hollows. She helped Ichigo get to Las Noches so he could fight against Ukiura and save Orihime. She was fighting against another Hollow that was spawning other Hollows. I don't remember what his name was, but that's what he did. And she stayed in Wakamundo even after Ichigo regained his mind and other things, because like when he fought against Ukiura, he turned into a hollow and he defeated Ukiura through those means, and then he went back down and he fought against Yami, or tried to. And she was in Wakamundo fighting with Renji, Chad, Udi, Orihime, Kenpachi, Byakuya, and Mayuri, and they were there fighting against Yami and some other hollow. And that's where they were when Ichigo was fighting against Aizen and all this shit. But then Ichigo lost his sword powers. Rukia said goodbye to Ichigo, and that's the last he saw her. She said goodbye, and then he was like a regular human. He couldn't see shit no more. He couldn't hear any spirits talk, like anything, not just soul reapers, but like any ghosts at all. He couldn't see that shit. Then a year and a half passes, and then Kugo Ginjo is fucking with people, or well, Tsukishima is really fucking with people's memories and shit in the world of the living. And then Rukia is like there to give Ichigo his powers back. She's like, "Here, take your powers back." She stabbed him with a sword. See, this sword wasn't like the first time. All the captains of the 13 Guardsword had put their energy, their Ryatsu, into this blade, so Ichigo could regain his sword powers. And when he did, he got his powers back. And she fought against, goddamn, what's that girl's name? she's a full bringer. She basically controlled a dollhouse, and she was fighting against that girl, and she was able to defeat that girl and those things. She got a dub there. Then after that, the Fullbringers were defeated, and then a couple of months passed or whatever, and then 1,000 Year Blood War happened. And so 1,000 Year Blood War, um, Rukia, she was there in the Soul Society, trying to hold down against you know Quincy's and shit, right? You know, all these captains got their Bankai stolen from them. Head Captain Yamamoto went down, and she was then after the first invasion. People came down and were like, "Yes, guess what? Rukia, Byakuya, Renji, and Ichigo need to come with us to the Soul Palace, the Soul King's Palace, and learn from us, Squad Zero, how to become better soldiers." And she was taken up there. And when she was taken up there, she learned Bankai, Sadina Shirayuki, her Bankai. You know, she was able to learn that Bankai, right? Because that was her Shikai, right? Sadina Shirayuki. But then she got sent back down, right? They're like, they're attacking again, so you have to go down there and defend. She got down there and she found Asnot. See, Asnot was given the shrift or the letter F, because fear. He used fear to control his opponent and overtake his opponent, and that's how he was able to defeat his opponents. That's how he defeated Byakuya. And you know, he also had his Bankai. He stole his Bankai, but he didn't need that against Rukia. Rukia was able to use her Shikai. She was able to get him down to she was able to freeze him to absolute zero. However, she was or almost absolute zero. And then he was able to break out. He used his Vault Standee, and that is like the Quincy's power up. And he was able to use that on her. And then Byakuya showed up to help her out a little bit. But he was like, you know what? I want you to handle this guy. Show him what you can do now, Rukia, because I know you ain't weak like you used to be. Show me that you know what you're doing and shit. And she unleashed Bankai. When she did that, um, she froze him to death, like literally. Um, he froze and then he crumbled, much like when Aokiji freezes somebody in One Piece. They just crumbled into ice, and they were no more. He was done after that. She was able to freeze him completely and other shit. And then Byakuya advised her, you barely have control of your Bankai. You have to slowly, power down and other shit so you don't hurt yourself. Because changing of degrees as far as temperature goes can fuck with somebody's body and shit like that. And he was like, you got to calm down and other stuff. So that happened, and then she was helping other soldiers out. She saw Aizen got released because they were like, hey, we need help from Aizen now. Yuha is playing games with the Soul King. She was like, he's in a chair, but I don't know, I don't trust him. And he was like, he showcased his power from his chair, and he was able to stop these fucking black things from fucking with people and shit. Kurohitsugi, all that shit, and they were like, oh damn, this guy's still powerful. But head captain Shunsu was like, that's why I only unlocked a couple of restraints. We ain't gonna let him out all the way. We ain't doing all that. Um, she was there, and she was all right, and she started running around, and the Wanderreich, and they're trying to fight against these, Schutzstaffel, now, and she's gonna help Ichigo in the end of Bleach, defeat, Yuha, and then eventually, there's some things, I know about Rukia, that other people don't know about, but she is like worthy of being at least a lieutenant. I'll say that much. Rukia played her part in, like, without Rukia, Ichigo wouldn't have been the protagonist he is and other shit, right? He wouldn't have had sword powers. He wouldn't have been able to, defeat certain enemies. But she has the love interest. It's Renji. It's obvious because Renji. Well, it might not be obvious to everybody, but Renji is, hers. Um, and they like protect each other and shit during the like Thousand Year Blood War too. And not some hints at some shit, but I ain't gonna talk about that because this is a story of Rukia Kuchiki as it is right now. In the anime, because I only talk about anime. But yeah, that was the story of Rukia Kuchiki. You were expecting a little more after that, but I ain't gonna tell that part. There's other people who talk about that. But stay cool on the corner anyways, and keep watching Bleach because it's getting better. There's one more core coming out. I don't know when, but when it comes out, I'm watching it. So stay cool on the corner.